Welcome to Preeminent Test Prep. Today I'll be taking you through the Math No Calculator section of SAT Practice Test 6. I'll be showing you how to move efficiently through this section and how to recognize patterns on the SAT Math section to hopefully improve your score. Make sure to subscribe as we will be releasing videos on every section of all 10 College Board released practice tests. Now, let's get started. Question 1. Salim wants to purchase tickets from a vendor to watch a tennis match. The vendor charges a one-time service fee for processing the purchase of tickets. The equation T equals 15N plus 12 represents the total amount T in dollars Salim will pay for N tickets. What does 12 represent in the equation? Well, we know that if we bought 0 tickets, N would be 0, and we'd have 15 times 0, which would give us 0, and we'd have 12 as our total cost. So now we'll read through our answer choices. Answer choice A says the price of one ticket in dollars. Well, we know that's wrong because we know the price of one ticket is 15 because we have 15 times N. Answer choice B, the amount of the service fee in dollars, and we know that that is correct because if we bought 0 tickets, we'd still have to pay $12, which means our $12 represents our one-time service fee. Question 2. A gardener buys 2 kinds of fertilizer. Fertilizer A contains 60% filler materials by weight, and fertilizer B contains 40% filler materials by weight. Together, the fertilizers bought by the gardener contain a total of 240 pounds of filler materials. Which equation models this relationship where X is the number of pounds of fertilizer A and Y is the number of pounds of fertilizer B? Well, what we know is we know that fertilizer A contains 60% filler materials, and we know its variable, X, is the number of pounds of fertilizer A. Well, we know we're only going to have filler weight of 60% of every X pound, right? So that's going to be 0.6 X will be the total weight of the filler material for every pound X of fertilizer A. And then we're also going to have that plus 0.4 because we have 40% filler materials for fertilizer B. And we know Y is our variable for the number of pounds of fertilizer B. So we're going to have plus 0.4 Y. And we know our total is 240 pounds of filler materials, right? So we're going to equal 240 pounds. We find which equation matches ours, and that is B. Question 3. What is the sum of the complex numbers 2 plus 3i and 4 plus 8i, where I equals the square root of -1? Well, we'll start by adding our whole numbers, so we'll have 2 plus 4, which equals 6. Now we'll add our imaginary numbers, which will be 3i plus 8i, which equals 11i. 6 plus 11i will be our answer, which is C. Question 4. In the equation above, P and T are constants. Which of the following could be the value of P? Alright, well, to solve for P, we have to set our equation on the right side equal to our equation on the left side like it is. So we're going to start by multiplying P times X times P times X, right? And that'll get us P squared X squared. And what we can see here is we actually have plus T and we have minus T. Well, we know if we have plus T on the left side and minus T on the right side, that our middle term will actually cancel because we'll have plus T times Px and we'll have minus P times T, and we'll have minus T times Px, right? So our middle term will just cancel, but we'll still have our T times our negative T, which will get us minus T squared, right? So we'll have P squared X squared minus T squared, and that will equal our 4X squared minus 9. So we're asked for the value of P, so we don't even have to worry about T. And we see that we have X squared on each side by our coefficient next to it. So if we have our X squareds equal to each other, we can go ahead and say that P squared equals 4. Now all we got to do is square root P squared and square root 4 to solve for P. The square root of 4 is 2, so we know that P will equal 2. So our answer will be A. Question 5. Which of the following is the graph of the equation y equals 2x minus 5 in the xy plane? Well, I know from my minus 5, my y-intercept will be negative, so I can go ahead and eliminate A and C because they have y-intercepts that aren't negative. And I see I have 2x as my slope, so positive slope, so I should be increasing. So I can go ahead and get rid of B because it has a negative slope. And I see that D has positive slope and a y-intercept of -5, so it must be my answer. Question 6. If x equals 2/3 y and y equals 18, what is the value of 2x minus 3? So we'll go ahead and plug in our y in our first equation to solve for x. So x equals 2/3 times y. We know y is 18. 2/3 times 18 is 12, so we know that x is 12. Now we go ahead and plug in our 12 for x in our second equation. So we have 2 times 12 minus 3 will give us our answer. 2 times 12 is 24. 24 minus 3 is 21. So our answer will be A. Question 7. A bricklayer uses the formula N equals 7 times L times H to estimate the number of bricks N needed to build a wall that is L feet long and H feet high. Which of the following correctly expresses L in terms of N and H? Well, all we got to do here is we have to manipulate our equation so that we have what L equals, right? So we're going to go ahead and divide our right side and our left side by 7H so that we have L alone, and that's our answer right there. L will equal N divided by 7H, which will be answer choice C. Next, question 8. The table above shows some values of the functions w and t. For which value of x is w of x plus t of x equal to x? So all we got to do here is we got to go into our table and we have to add wx to t of x and see if it equals x or doesn't equal x. Well, right off the bat, we'll start and just go in order. So x is 1. Does 1 equal negative 1 plus negative 3? No, because negative 1 plus negative 3 equals negative 4. So we can say that that does not equal 1. Now we'll go to x is 2. Does 3 plus negative 1 equal 2? Well, 3 plus negative 1 is the same as 3 minus 1, which does equal 2. So we can say that 2 is our answer. And we're asked for the value of x. So we always want to pay attention to what the last part of the question is asking, because that's what they want us to answer with. So the value of x will be 2. So our answer is B. Question 9. If the square root of x plus the square root of 9 equals the square root of 64, what is the value of x? Alright, well right off the bat I can see square root of 64. I know the square root of 64 will be 8. And I also see square root of 9, which I know will be 3. So I can rewrite this equation as the square root of x plus 3 equals 8. Now I can subtract 3 from each side to isolate my root x. 8 minus 3 gives me 5, so I have 5 equals the square root of x. I'll go ahead and square each side, and I will get 5 squared, which is 25, equals x. And I'm asked for the value of x. We always want to double check what we're asked to answer with. So my answer will be C. Question 10. Jamie is preparing for a bicycle race. His goal is to bicycle an average of at least 280 miles per week for 4 weeks. He bicycled 240 miles the first week, 310 miles the second week, and 320 miles the third week. Which inequality can be used to represent the number of miles x Jamie could bicycle on the 4th week to meet his goal? Well, we know that our average per week is going to be our 240 we did the first week, plus our 310 we did the second week, plus our 340 we did the third week, or 320, plus our 320, and then plus our x, right, divided by 4. That'll give us our average per week. And we know that he wants to have that average be at least 280, right? So we want our average greater than 280. So now we got to find which equation matches that in our answer choices. So we look at equation A, and it's not even close. It has x alone, and it doesn't have it divided by it to get the average. So we can eliminate A. We see B. B has x on the wrong side, so we can get rid of that. C, it doesn't divide x by 4, so we can get rid of that. We look at equation D, and we don't see immediately that it's over 4, but if we look on the right side, we see that it has 4 times 280, and if we divide by 4 to each side, we get our equation that we wrote. So now we can go ahead and circle D as our answer. Question 12. Which of the following is equivalent to 4x squared plus 6x divided by the quantity 4x plus 2? Well, what we got to do here is we can go ahead and set up our long division. So we'll have 4x plus 2 out of our box, and we'll have 4x squared plus 6x in our box. So now we're going to look for 4x times what number gives us 4x squared. Well, 4x times x gives us 4x squared. So minus 4x squared. We have to also do our x times our 2. So we get plus 2x. Now we subtract. So 4x squared minus 4x squared gives us 0. 6x minus 2x gives us 4x. Okay, and now we go ahead and we find which x time, or 4x times what number gives us 4x? Well, 4x times 1 gives us 4x, so we can go ahead and do that. So we'll have minus 1 times 4x, which would be 4x, and then 1 times 2, which is 2. Now we go ahead and we subtract. So we have 4x minus 4x gets us 0, and then we have minus 2 as our remainder. Right, so minus 2 is going to be our remainder, which means that it'll be over our 4x plus 2 still, because it's our remainder. And we know that we have x plus 1 that is completely out with no remainder. So we'll have x plus 1 minus 2 over 4x plus 2, which will be D. Looks like we skipped question 11, so we'll go back to that now. The vertex of the parabola in the xy plane above is 0, C. Which of the following is true about the parabola? Man, I can't say that today. Which of the following is true about the parabola with the equation y equals negative a x minus b squared plus c? Alright, well, if we look at our equation, we're asked for what's true of the parabola with this equation, right? Well, we see it has negative a, right? And we see we have x minus b squared next to it. So we know when we do that, we're going to end with negative a x squared. Well, what does this negative mean? It means that if we were to graph it, wherever our vertex is, we'll say it's right here, we're going to open down, right? Because we have that negative a. So we know that we're going to open down. So we can go ahead and get rid of all the answer choices that say open upward, like A and C. We can go ahead and get rid of. Okay, now the only part left is the beginning of B and D. We see that they each have C as their y coordinate for the vertex, so we need to determine if the x coordinate of our vertex is B or negative B. Well, they actually give us our equation here in vertex form. So our quadratic equation is A times x minus h squared plus k, where our vertex is hk. So if we look at the equation we're given, we see that B is h. So we know that B then will equal our x coordinate for our vertex. So if we know that B is our x coordinate for our vertex, then we know that B will be our answer, and D is out because it has negative B, which is not correct. Question 12, or we already did 12. Question 13. In the equation above, t is a constant. If the equation has no real solutions, which of the following could be the value of t? Alright, so in order to find out what t has to be in order to have no real solutions, what we're going to do is we're going to move t to our left side so that we can set our equation equal to 0. And then we're going to use b squared minus 4ac, which is our discriminant, to find out what value of t gives us no real solutions of all of our options here. So if b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, then there are no real solutions. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our equation that we've written, we're going to plug in our b. Our b is going to be negative 4. So we're going to have negative 4 squared. We know negative 4 squared is 16. And then we're going to have minus 4 times our a, which is 2, times our c, which is negative t. So times negative t. So now what we can see is we have 16, and then negative 4 times 2 will get us negative 8. And then negative 8 times negative t, negative 8 times negative t will get us plus 8t. Now we need that to be less than 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to subtract 16 from each side. So we have negative 16 must be greater than 8t. We're going to divide each side by 8. And we get that t must be less than negative 16 over 8. We know negative 16 over 8 is negative 2. So t must be less than negative 2. What is our only answer choice where t is less than negative 2? Our only answer choice where t is less than negative 2 is A, so A will be our answer. Question 14. A laundry service is buying detergent and fabric softener from its supplier. The supplier will deliver no more than 300 pounds in a shipment. Each container of detergent weighs 7.35 pounds. So we have 7.35 pounds per detergent, and each container of fabric softener weighs 6.2 pounds. So plus 6.2, we'll use F for fabric softener. Now we see that that can't be more than 300 pounds, so it has to be less than, and it says no more, so it can equal it, but it can't be any more than that, 300. Alright, the service wants to buy at least twice as many containers of detergent as containers of fabric softener. So we want 2 times the amount of fabric we saw, 2 times the amount of fabric softener we have to be less than or equal to the amount of detergent we have. Let D represent the number of containers of detergent and S represent the number of containers of fabric, right? So we'll go ahead and get rid of this F because it tells us to use S. And now we can go ahead and we have our system of equations. We're going to finish reading our question, but it's probably just going to ask us for these because I kind of glanced over at the answers, which it's okay to do as long as you're not spending too much time looking at the answers before reading the question. And it says, let D represent the number of containers of detergent and S represent the number of containers of fabric softener, where D and S are non-negative integers. Which of the following systems of inequalities represents the situation? Alright, well we know that we have to have less than 300 pounds, so it's going to be 7.35D plus 6.25, or plus 6.2S must be less than 300, which all answer choices have, so we can't eliminate anything on that. But then we have that 2 times S, so 2 times our fabric softener, must be equal to or less than the amount of detergent we have. So D must be greater than or equal to 2S, which is A. Question 15. Which of the following is equivalent to A plus B over 2 squared? Well, what we have to do here is we have to go ahead and do A plus B over 2, and then we have to use FOIL, or the box method, whatever you prefer. We'll just use FOIL here. So we're going to go A times A. A times A is going to give us A squared, and then A times B over 2 gives us AB over 2, and then we do B over 2 times A, which will give us plus AB over 2 again, and then we'll do B over 2 times B over 2. B over 2 times B over 2 is just B over 2 squared, which means we'll get B squared over 2 squared. 2 squared is 4, so B squared over 4. Another way you can do this is if you know the pattern for A plus B squared, and I'm using A plus B squared not in connection with this equation, but just as an example. I mean, we'll actually switch it to X plus Y just so you don't get confused here, because I'm just giving you an example. It has nothing to do with this problem, except for the fact that it's relatable. If we were to do X plus Y squared, we know that we would get X squared plus 2 XY plus Y squared. So that's a good pattern to memorize, right? Because if you know this, then you don't have to actually do this middle step where you're adding these two, because you'll just know that it'll be 2 times our X and our Y, or in this case, 2 times our A and our B over 2. So if you can memorize that, that'll be helpful. And you would see that 2 times our AB over 2 would get rid of our 2, and we'd be left with plus AB, which we see here as we go A squared plus AB over 2 plus AB over 2. That's the same as plus 2AB over 2. The 2's would cancel, and we'd get A squared plus AB, and then we have plus B squared over 4 as our answer. So plus B squared over 4. Now we find which equation is the same as ours, and that is D. So D is our answer. Question 16. If a to the power of b over 4 equals 16 for positive integers a and b, what is one possible value for b? Well, a is a positive integer, so we can actually just go ahead and call it 16, right? Because that just seems easy. So we'll have 16 to the power of b over 4 equals 16. Well, we know 16 to the first power equals 16, so we can just go ahead and we can call our b 4. So that way we have 16 to the power of 4 over 4, which is just 1. 16 to the power 1 is 16, so 4 is our answer. And there's a couple other answers you can use too, but I would just use 4 and just go through it like that because it's very quick and simple. Question 17. What value of t is the solution of the equation above? Alright, this one, it's just going to be a simple algebra question. So we go ahead, we multiply each side by 3 so we can start to isolate t. 5 times 3 is 15, so we have 15 over 2. We go ahead and we divide by 2 to isolate t. We divide 15 over 2 by 2. That's the same as multiplying our denominator by 2, right? So now we're going to go ahead and get 15 over 4 equals t. So 15 over 4 will be our answer there. Question 18. In the figure above, BD is parallel to line AE. What is the length CE? Well, since we know that DB is parallel to AE or EA, whatever you want to use, we know this angle here is the same as that angle there. So angle D there and angle E there, they're the same angle. And we know that we have 90-degree angles in each. And then we know that they each have angle C, right? So we know that they're going to be similar triangles because they have all three angles are the same measure. So they're similar triangles. So we're asked to solve for CE, right? So we need E to C. Well, we don't have either DE or CD. So we're going to go ahead and we have to get one of them before we can get the other. So I see we have two numbers in our smaller similar triangle. We have 6 and we have 8. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and do 8 squared plus 6 squared equals our CD squared. And we're doing that because we know that A squared plus B squared equals C squared, Pythagorean theorem, right? So we need to solve for the CD and then use that in our similar triangles to go ahead and solve for C to E. So we know 8 squared, that's going to give us 64. 6 squared is going to give us 36, and that's going to equal our CD squared. So we know 64 plus 36 is 100. 100 equals CD squared. We square root each side, and we get square root 100 is 10. So 10 will equal our line CD, right? So now we have our line CD is 10. Okay, now we have a similar triangle with all of our measures. We can go ahead and set up our proportion to solve for CE. So whenever I'm solving a proportion like this, I put what I'm trying to solve for at the top because it's a couple less steps we have to do when multiplying and dividing and solving, right? So if you can, just put it at the top, right? So we're going to do CE, which is our hypotenuse, and we have to set it equal to our hypotenuse in our smaller triangle, which is 10. 10 is our hypotenuse there. And now what we have to do is we have to pick the other leg length of each one that we want to use. Well, we only have one, right? We only have our straight up leg, EA and DB. So we have to pick that one because we don't have our bottom leg from C to A. So we're going to go ahead and put our 10 is going to be over our 8 right here. Or I'm sorry, our 10 is going to be over our 6. Our 10 will be over our 6 right here, right? And then our CE will be over our 18. Now we go ahead and multiply by 18 to each side. 10 times 18 is 180. 180 over 6. 180 over 6 is 30. Therefore, CE equals 30. Question 19. How many liters of a 25% saline solution must be added to 3 liters of a 10% saline solution to obtain a 15% saline solution? Alright, so we've got our 25% saline solution, which we put down as 0.25, and we'll call our variable here x. We'll say x equals our 25% saline. Alright, and then we'll say that y equals our 10% saline. Okay, so we've got 0.25x plus our 3 liters of our 10% saline solution. So plus 0.3, and they're giving us, or 0.1 times 3. 0.1, because that's our percent saline solution, times our 3 liters of it. And that's going to equal our 15% saline solution, so 0.15 times our total number of liters, which are going to be x plus y. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back here. We're going to go 0.25x plus 0.1 times 3. Well, that'll be plus 0.3. And then we go back over here. We distribute our 0.15 to our x and our y. So we have equals 0.15x plus 0.15y. We go ahead and we put in our variable for our y, right? Because we know that we have 3 liters of it. So it's going to be 0.15 times 3, because we know that 3 is the amount of liters of our 10% saline solution. So now we can go ahead and we can subtract 0.15x from each side to get 0.1x. We subtract our 0.3 from our right and left side. Over here we have that 3 times 0.15, which is 0.45. We subtract our 0.3 and we get 0.15. So now we see we have 0.1x equals 0.15. I'll go ahead and write that smaller over here so you can see it better. Alright, now we just divide by 0.1 to solve for x. 0.1 times what equals 0.15? We know that that will be 1.5. And if you need to do long division, that's fine as well. You do 0.1 over 0.15. 0.1 goes into 0.1 one time. Remainder of 0, we drop our 5 down. We know that 0.1 goes into 0.5 5 times. We get our answer of 1.5. This could also be written as 3 over 2. Question 20. And I'm going to go ahead and put a line through here so you see that that's for the other problem as well. Points A and B lie on a circle with radius 1, and an arc AB has length pi over 3. What fraction of the circumference of the circle is the length of arc AB? Alright, well we know arc AB, we have a length of pi over 3. So we know that that has to get divided by our total circumference. Well, we know our radius is 1, and we know that our equation for circumference is 2 times our radius times pi. Well, we know our radius is 1, so we know that we'll just have 2 pi. So now we are dividing, right? And we know that 2 pi can be written as 2 pi over 1. So when we're dividing fractions, we multiply by our denominator flipped, right? So the reciprocal of our denominator is what we're going to multiply by. So we're going to have pi over 3 times our 1 over 2 pi. We can go and cross cancel our pi's. We'll be left with 1 divided by 3 times 2, which is equal to 1 divided by 6. So our answer will be 1/6. Thank you for watching Preeminent Test Prep. Make sure to subscribe, like, and share, as we will be releasing more videos to help you prepare for the SAT.